Hey everybody, Cromag here. It's Sunday, July 9th. I guess the topic of this week that's been on everybody's plate has been North Korea. For the first time this week, North Korea has tested an ICBM that has the capability to reach Alaska and Hawaii. This is a game changer as far as the timetable for action. Before we didn't worry about it too much because it was only able to reach out in the Pacific, possibly hit Japan, possibly hit South Korea, but now it's a game changer. We have to do something. This has much further reaching implications than just the Korean Peninsula. There are several points that are important here. First, Korea has the capability to reach Alaska and Hawaii. Okay, we're supposed to protect the homeland. They're our homeland. We've got to protect those folks. Secondly, there are multiple bases and tens of thousands of service members that are now within range of this madman, this little fat despot's missiles. That's something that we just can't stand. We can't have that. Okay. And thirdly, any technology that's developed in North Korea is going to make its way to Iran. Iran is flush with money from little Obama and Kerry's little venture with their deal with Iran. And Iran has any idea of trying to not develop nuclear. They're just going to let Korea develop it and then they'll buy it from them. And they've got the cash to do it now. That was probably one of the stupidest things I ever heard when they were talking about doing that. North Korea, whatever North Korea develops, Iran's going to get. And Iran wouldn't think twice about using it on Israel or any of the other people there, any of our people. We've got a lot of people in that area as well. So it brings us to the next point. How do we solve this? Well, first and foremost, military action is not an option at this point. If we were to detect a missile launch that wasn't just a test, if it was a true intent to try to hit a base of ours or an ally, or even try to reach the shores of the United States, certainly we'd have to act militarily. But any kind of military action is going to trigger some ground fighting that I've heard General Mattis say this past week that people just have not been used to, probably since World War II, even Vietnam. You talk to a Korean War veteran and let him tell you about the Korean War, and how just brutal these people are. They are some tough people, and a ground war is not something you want to start there. Secondly, bargaining with these people. Bargaining with these people don't work. We've been doing that since the 90s. Clinton started it. Bush did it. It hasn't gotten us anywhere. In fact, if you look at the number of missile tests since Clinton, they've gone up. And now that here in the last 2 years, the missile tests have gone way up. This guy has no intentions of giving it up. He knows that the missile is his ace in the hole, and it'll keep people off his back for a while. They don't play by the rules. The North Koreans don't play by the rules, and they don't have any intention of going along with any kind of thing. All it does is it buys them time, and the more time they have, the better their technology gets. You hear some people say, well, let's assassinate him. Well, first off, by the rule book, we're not supposed to assassinate leaders. We know it happens. Maybe we don't assassinate them. Maybe we get somebody else to do it, but it happens. That won't work here either. These people are so brainwashed. All this will do is allow one of those generals to consolidate power, and the devil you know is better than the devil you don't know. You don't know what one of these crazy generals will do. I mean, these guys are they're there for war. And I got a feeling that they may be worse off than Kim. So here's what, I've put a lot of thought into it this week, and here's what I think could potentially work. By no means do I think I'm any kind of diplomat or ambassador or a Secretary of State, but these are the things that came to my mind that potentially could work and possibly have a relatively good outcome should it be put into effect. First off, I'd arrange a meeting with South Korea, Russia, and China. These three countries border North Korea. They will be impacted by it. The Chinese and the Russians do not want to see something happen to where they would get just overrun with refugees. Also, any kind of nuclear war, that's going to pull them into it. They're not going to be happy about nukes going off along their borders. So it's crazy here. So I would arrange a meeting with South Korea, Russia, and China, and I'd sit down with them, and of course we'd facilitate it, but I'd sit down with them and possibly set up a proposition to where we could do a controlled collapse of the North Korean regime. And when I say a controlled collapse, I mean basically everybody said, okay, we've got to deal with this now, and here's how we're going to do it. So the first step would be to pre-position humanitarian aid along the borders of North Korea, up in China, up in Russia, and then along the 38th parallel to DMZ there in South Korea. At that point, the next thing we would want to do is set up a blockade so that nothing can get out of Korea. We have to agree that we're not going to let any technology out. We're not going to let any supplies in. Thirdly, we would agree that once the collapse did occur, the people from North Korea would be repatriated into a single Korea. Now, many people say that North Korea is the buffer for China and Russia from the United States and South Koreans, and I understand that. But I think what you could do is you could develop a 25-mile wide zone along the borders with China, Russia, along that existing North Korean border, a 25-mile wide zone. It could be a business development zone, duty-free, some kind of tariff benefit, where these three countries could use that area as an autonomous area just for business. It wouldn't be owned by Russia, wouldn't be owned by China, wouldn't be owned by South Korea, but they could have business development there. That would give these people that have been under little fat little despots rule, would give them some work. We'd also have to agree that there would be some sort of minimum wage as well, because you don't want to just bolster what the Chinese are doing with the cheap labor. There has to be some structure to this. The next thing would be all the people would then be repatriated, like I said, with South Korea, and we'd have just a united Korea. To also make it so that the Russians and the Chinese weren't too upset, what we could do is say, hey, the United States agrees that we will not put any bases or pre-position any troops or participate in any exercises above the existing DMZ. The only people allowed up in the new area would be the South Koreans. People, it's crazy, but I think this is something that we have to take notice of, and we have to come up with ideas to solve this. Hopefully, there's somebody up in Washington now trying to figure out how to do this. But the last thing we want to do is have people lobbing nukes. Last thing we want to do is a ground war. We have wasted so much of our blood treasure in Afghanistan and Iraq, and I don't think anybody else wants to do it. So I hope somebody comes up with something. I hope we get this resolved, and just pray. That's all I can say we can do at this point, is pray. Pray for our leaders, pray for our country, pray for North Korea. So, well, I'm going to wrap it up. Hope everybody has a good week. and I'll see you on the other side. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.